So it's that time again. It's the Big Premiership Review Show, round 10, and this round just felt like an epic. I mean, this league is so competitive. Anyone can beat anyone. Yes, we know stacked up against the best URC sides in the Champions Cup, they are a step below, but just as a league, it's great. So many tries, so exciting. It started off with Newcastle not being good enough to beat Quins. Then we had Gloucester coming back with a really good performance against Sale, who were good last week. So just so topsy-turvy. Teams 1 week are a bit poor, are great the next week. Then the Chiefs had a chance to turn over Leicester Tigers at home, but couldn't do it, and some controversy there. We'll come to all these match reports. I've got timestamps down below, so skip around if you want to, or watch the whole lot. Then we had a really entertaining game of Saracens 35, Bristol Bears 26, and it finished with an epic. The rerun of the final from last year, and it felt like a final, with the Saints just nipping it at the end with a Finn Smith penalty. And this is how it looks in the table. Bath still there at the top, a couple of bonus points just stretching them a bit further. Bristol staying in at second despite losing. Sale Sharks have dropped down though, and it's got Saracens and Leicester back up in the top 4. Gloucester leapfrog as well, and Harlequins and Northampton Saints don't move up a place, but they gain some points, getting back into that mix. It's going to be such a bun fight for those top 4 playoff spots. So the first game was Newcastle versus Harlequins. Harlequins fairly comfortable winners in the end, although they didn't look great. And the thing I was watching was their attack, and they do go wide very quickly without threatening sometimes. And they started off like this. I don't like it when they do this. They get a bit better sometimes. On 10 minutes, it's a bit more direct as Big Joe Launchbury and 2 more big forward runners hit some hard yards. Some gaps open up, and actually straight through the middle goes Chisholm, the number 8, 0-7. So after all that expansive play at the beginning, it's straight up the guts that does it for Harlequins. Newcastle, they kept on trying, but they were just a step below some of these Harlequins forwards. And that just is the difference. Newcastle, a good team, well coached. They try to do the right things, but they're just not quite at the same level as these other players. And I think after that try, the Quins forwards realise they've got the beating of Newcastle up front. A Maul flies up the pitch. Goodness me, the Maul was such a weapon, maybe their only real weapon in this game, but they don't get anything going. And Newcastle, their attacking shape, it looks good. I make a note of here. They mix up the hard lines, the ball movement, but they just don't quite have the ability to execute and get through that Quins defence. But yeah, again, looking good, but looks aren't everything. They need points. On 20 minutes, it's clear already that both sides are full of mistakes. Actually a poor performance, I think, from both sides. Newcastle kick out on the full twice. Quins muck up 2 lineouts. Not looking good. I do like actually a note for the referee, Sarah Cox. She gives a penalty for players screaming at her, which is what you should do. It's a bad habit creeping into the game. Jamie Blumire, the culprit on this occasion. Another note, the second row for Harlequins. Herb seems to be playing chewing gum, which is all sorts of bad ideas. But anyway, there we go. And our old friend, the bolt upright tackle, comes in, and we get a yellow card for Herb's kind of his second act of the game, maybe his first. So chewing gum, not good, but upright tackle, probably worse. So 25 minutes in, Quins are nearly punished for those errors. But the quick Quins forwards worked really hard to turn over a Maul 5 metres from the line. So Newcastle had a chance to get back in the game there. And Newcastle enjoy a good 10 minutes of good field position just before half-time, and they get their deserved try. Going through a mountain of decent phases, freeing up Radwan out wide. The extra man, of course, with Herbst's yellow card. Good team try, 7-0, and I think it reflected the game as it stands. And they were just about to go into half-time with that draw, but then the Maul comes to play for Quins again. The thing that's really working well. 2 of these in a row make up about 50 metres in total, and Jared Evans loops a brilliant pass over the top as the defenders rush up, and Marcus Smith fades out and trots under the post. So a 1 bit of quality handling from that big Maul, and at half-time we get the lead for Quins 7-12, so a little bit gutting for Newcastle. After half-time, straight away I make a note that there's better attacking shape from Quins. They launch Luke Northmore flat off the line-out, who's been pretty effective in that 12 role. Chisholm smashes up with momentum, and Quins finally get it going. Gordon's off for Newcastle, who's the best at slowing up the ball, so maybe that's a bit of a difference. But quick ruck ball penalty, 7-15. Of course, another flying maul for Quins goes deep into the Falcons' 22. Good phases build until Finn Baxter fumbles the ball, and he really is in poor form, not sure what's going on there, and he looks dejected on dropping that, knowing that maybe his England chances are slipping through his fingers as well. On 54 minutes, Newcastle get back into the game with their big forwards screaming onto the ball at pace. Really nice stuff, until Luke Northmore stops Blamire dead. Good game for Luke Northmore. I do think he's in that 12 shout for England. He drives him back to win a penalty to boot as well. So big defensive play by Northmore. But Newcastle have some momentum. Redshaw on the outside steams onto the ball. Falcons throwing themselves at the Quins' defence, pushing hard for that second try. But again, Quins rescue it with some good defensive play, and Kenningham with that vital jackal. So Quins absolutely could have been behind in this game. Like I said, two sides not particularly great, so it actually made for a fairly good contest. With 20 minutes to go, it's another Harlequins maul, just so dominant, probably too dominant as it flies forward so fast they actually obstruct each other as the maul disintegrates. So big problems for Newcastle trying to defend that maul. They just can't. One thing I think that is better for Newcastle is the kicking game. I think Brett Conlon's kicking out of hand is massive, it's accurate, probably slightly better than Marcus Smith. Now the phase play dominance I would say is actually with Newcastle. They're putting things together a bit more nicely, although Quins aren't letting them through, so they have to go for a speculative grubber. And it actually works. It bounces off the corner flag and Ben Redshaw follows up to get the touchdown. So a little bit lucky, but they had that attacking intent and they get their reward. So it's 14-17, game on with just 10 minutes to go. Quins haven't had a lot in attack apart from the maul, but Newcastle, they just can't stop it. Two more mauls, it finally results in a try for Jack Walker and kind of breaks them there. Then they get another try as Quins' player of the match for me, Jack Kenningham, charges down a clearing box kick, and Marcus Smith puts in a perfect crossfield kick right on the plate for Caden Murley. He feeds inside to Beard to score the try and the bonus point. So in the end, they come out comfortable winners on the scoreboard. With 10 minutes to go, it was a really close game. So exciting game, but not that high quality, I'd say. Quins are not looking like a top four side. Newcastle Falcons need some bonus points to creep up the table, and they got nothing here. Now let's talk about Gloucester 36, Sale 20. Both these sides up and down. Sale were great last round. Gloucester were poor. Gloucester have kind of gone away from their attacking rugby recently that they started the first 6 rounds with. Now they're back onto it. It's so topsy-turvy, this Premiership. You don't know what you're going to get. Anyway, Gloucester, they just produced some fantastic rugby in this game. Sale fought hard, nearly got back into it, but I think Gloucester definitely deserve the win, especially with their mastermind at scrum half, Thomas Williams. Again, brilliant for me. He should go on that British and Irish Lions tour if he keeps this going into Wales. On 3 minutes, Johnny Hill swims through the first Gloucester maul to stop a dangerous position, and I got some comments saying maybe Johnny Hill should be reconsidered for England. I'd thought kind of his chance had gone, but we're not overly blessed, I don't think, with second rows, and he's got the size. He's as good as he's ever been, I'd say, so maybe. Another player that maybe is a bit underrated for England, maybe I underrate, is Bevan Rodd, and he wins the first scrum penalty, and he's been great all season for Sale. Does that translate to international? Not so sure, but two players, let me know your thoughts down below. 5 minutes in, goodness me, Sale try and pin Gloucester down with kicks, but somehow Gloucester amazingly get outside the defence with brilliant handling. I mean, just top quality handling. Hathaway screams down the touchline, and Thomas Williams and Carreras, they're up in support for a top quality try, 5-0. Thomas Williams is booming those kicks to touch a big 50-22. Then Carreras booms a penalty as well. So the kicking was definitely better for Gloucester as well. But Harris fumbles badly in the centres, and Chris Harris used to be a starter for Scotland, isn't anymore. And we could see in this game he did make some mistakes. He was a bit slow, and that's kind of why he's not in that international scene anymore. But the other centre was put on the wing, Max Llewellyn. He looked fantastic, and he's surely going to start for Wales again in the Six Nations. Either way, a lot of kicks, a few fumbles, and it's a penalty either way, so it's 8-3. Then we get our next try, and it's another really good one. On 20 minutes, off a line out, Max Llewellyn just runs off Seb Atkinson's shoulder, Seb Atkinson is a really good ball player in the centres. It's a great finish for sure, but awful defence from young fly half Tom Curtis. Sale have their numbers. He bites in a little bit when he shouldn't. Then he goes back out and slips off Llewellyn. So that was a horror show of defence. And Sale's defence has been really good this season, but not so good in this game in places. That's 15-3. And yeah, I think Sale do have the weaker half-back pairing. You've got Gus Waugh, Tom Curtis, aren't even close to their normal pairing, or their best pairing, I would say, of Rafi Quirk and George Ford. They go for a high-kicking game, but they're getting nothing out of the Gloucester back three. So early on, you could see in the first half, Sale were trying to break down Gloucester with the kicks, and it just wasn't working because Gloucester were that good. Again, broken play, attacking brilliance. Everyone's on the same page for Gloucester. Great offloading. Thomas Williams picks a brilliant flash pass. Also Seb Atkinson, a brilliant pass behind the back of the onrushing Sale defenders, really picking apart that blitz defence. But the try is actually ruled out. But on the next attack, they do get the try. Hathaway again pops up on the opposite winger as they use Llewellyn as an extra centre off the wing. They move the ball wide perfectly. Big pass from Carreras. World-class handling once again, 22-3. Brilliant stuff. Sale aren't learning as they continue to play into Gloucester's hands, I think. Kicking the ball away, allowing Gloucester to launch those chaos counter-attacks. It is very similar to how Bristol try and play, and it's good to see them back in the groove as they kind of fallen off it the last couple of weeks, as I said. On 31 minutes, a penalty kick finally gets Sale into the Gloucester 22, but two botched mauls in a row, very painful. The third one's repelled as well, so good defence from Gloucester, but also poor execution from Sale. Talking of Sale, Gus Waugh, I know he's an international for Scotland now, but he looks fairly low quality to me. Slowish pass, funny spin on the ball, slow running game, not very powerful, just popping up the box kicks. Not sure he'd be in my Scotland squad. We will see. Harsh, maybe, but fair. It's just what I thought at the time, so I popped it down. Then just before half-time, it's not great from Sale, but they're persistent with a fourth maul. It's taken down, so it's a yellow to Vivas. You guessed it, a fifth maul. Finally works with a one-man short Gloucester, and Ben Curry spins over to touchdown, so a little bit better at half-time, 22-10. After half-time, Sale do look a bit brighter in attack. They are moving the ball a little bit more. Cowan Dickey, Ben Curry coming onto the ball at pace with some really good footwork, picking and going off the base, but still a good chance as Roebuck goes close twice. A note again, Carreras, a brilliant player, running, kicking, smashing a massive 50-22. He's going to be sorely missed if he goes. 52 minutes. It's just a maul fest from Sale, really. They go through a mountain of them once again, but botch another try-scoring chance with Tom Curry getting in front of Cowan Dickey on the breakaway. Sale, though, just seem desperate to carry on mauling and not changing it up. It's persistent, if not imaginative. Cowan Dickey can't ground one, but Clark is offside, so it's another yellow, so they're getting cards out of it at least. Obviously, they go for another maul, and finally Cowan Dickey does ground it, so it's slow, it's grinding, but they're getting back into the game. So 22-15, even though Gloucester have been playing the most attractive rugby. It's the points that matter, of course. Then Sale, within that try and Gloucester a man down, it was their chance to get back in the game fully. But Rob Dupree, it just takes far too long dawdling to move the ball wide from deep, and Ludlow fills the lane and plucks the ball off brilliantly, feeds the speed in Llewellyn for a great try. So Sale a bit too desperate and not good enough to make that extra man tell, so it's backfired completely, 29-15. They do get a try though just before the yellow card is over. George Barton for some reason flies up when the others aren't, and there's a dog leg, and Roebuck does finish, but it's a try apiece, so kind of cancelled out, 29-20. Now towards the end, Sale try and get round the edge, but again they're not quite as good at it. Llewellyn, Carreras, some brilliant covered tackles, and then Cowan Dickey for Sale throws a wonky 5-metre line-out chance, and they blow their last chance to win. And then just to cap it off, Thomas Williams rounds off a brilliant performance, chipping Roebuck and outstripping him to score the touchdown. For me, like I said, British and Irish Lion, get him on that plane. 36-20, brilliant performance from Gloucester. Sale didn't play that well. They're full of grit at least. They can definitely play better. But again, in this league, anyone can beat anyone. Then Leicester 28, Exeter 15, really close, and some controversial decisions that we'll talk about. Exeter start well. Dan Frost really up for this one. He's got really good form, I think, coming into this game. He goes on a front peel as a runner, then uses a passer on a back peel. He sets up an attack in the 22, and Montoya gets on the wrong side of the ruck, on the ruck still, so it is 0-3. Tigers, they ignore an overlap on 13 minutes, which they do sometimes. At least they get a penalty, and the in-form number 8, Ollie Cracknell, powers through Slade and Vermeulen to finish impressively 7-3. And let's talk Ollie Cracknell. He's played under-20s for Wales, and if I was Warren Gatland, I'd seriously consider getting him into the squad. He's mature now, he's not a youngster, but goodness me, he's full of power and confidence, taking his chance at Leicester. I'd get him in there. He is England qualified, I believe, but Wales might want to get hold of him. On about the 20-minute mark, Chiefs are into some prolonged phases. It's not particularly imaginative. It's fairly easy to read. The defence is strong for the Tigers. They force a knock-on, but then the Tigers reciprocate 10 minutes later, and it's not really flowing as a game, but these are two sides that don't often play that sort of game anyway. Half an hour in, the Tigers scrum, the line-out, they're looking strong, they're getting a good platform, and they're definitely on the front foot, wave after wave of big runners as they do, coming on at pace, good quick ruck ball. Exeter, they can't stop it, and Cam Henderson takes the short pop pass to crash over, so really good team try, just relying on pace onto the ball. Pretty simple but very effective. 14-3. Just before half-time, Leicester could have stretched the lead a bit more. Impressive high ball catch from Freddie Stewart. He made a number of those, as he does. He gets them deep into the 22, but then off a launch play, I think it's from a scrum, Josh Bassett is just picked up and carried back 10 metres. And I hate to say it, Josh Bassett has been a great player in the Premiership, but he's not what he was. One of the weaker wingers in the Premiership, and it showed again, I think, in this game. So half-time it is 14-3. At the start of the second half, Exeter get a long stretch of possession. The Tigers' defence, though, makes it really tough, disrupt well, but some nice soft passes, then a crossfield kick from Slade, finally catches the aggressive defence out wide, and there's a lot of space because fullback Stewart is more concerned with rucking and no one's covering him. A poor conversion miss from Slade, but a try nonetheless, so 14-8, Exeter back in the game. But they can't back it up. That's been their problem this season. They do something good and then something poor. On 53 minutes, it's a poor line of execution for Exeter as they're in a good position. Under through from Hooker Inard, I think. But they show good hunger and they drive the Tigers back over their line to get a scrum. Then Rigg, the replacement centre, offloads out of the tackle, and all Wyatt has to do is dive in the corner. But somehow he goes upright over the line. I really don't know what he was doing, and Cracknell prevents him grounding the ball. So a massive error, or two errors there for Exeter. They really got to score those tries if they want to start climbing this Premiership table. But at least they get a second crack at a scrum and they run the move again, and Wyatt goes in as Bassett's just been left for himself to mark 20 metres. So not sure what Leicester were doing there. Seemed far too easy, but Slade did well to suck in the defender and give Wyatt the try there. So they actually go ahead 14-15. Then one of the incidents that Rob Baxter wasn't too happy about, Rigg's yellow card. But I think it's fair enough, because Stewart's miles in the air, Rigg goes flying in at pace, takes his leg out. Yeah, sure, he sticks his arm up in the air, but he's in no position to catch the ball. And this law is to stop this neck injury, which could have happened. It was dangerous, yellow card, so I don't think, Rob, you've got anything to complain about there. Now, when you're a man down in defence, either you fly up and stop the pass, or you back off and drift. They decide to fly up to Exeter, but Tua just doesn't get there in time. The pass goes away. Nice catch and pass from Stewart, and Ollie Hassel-Collins makes that extra man tell to retake the lead 21-15. Now at this point, Exeter's resistance has been a bit broken. One more try to seal their fate in the yellow card period. It takes 3 to stop the big Ollie Cracknell, and Ben Youngs just can't believe it as his massive cap opens up in front of him. Asafa Scott far too slow to getting close to the ruck, and Youngs just trots over. Easy stuff there, but also a massive in the side ruck clearance from Whitcomb. Should have been a penalty. I mean, Leicester would have won anyway, but that's the bonus point try, so I can see why Rob Baxter might be annoyed with that one, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Then on to another close win for the home side. Saracens 35, Bristol 26. Great entertainment. Early on, 2 badly sliced kicks from Saracens, Daly, then Venzel. Gives the Bears a great attacking chance for the opening score, but winger Shagan saves the day with a jackal. Sarries, their defence has been really good, this season and continues to be in this game, shutting down all of Bristol's attacking attempts. It does seem like teams are starting to cope with the Chaos Bears attack a little bit better than compared to the first 6 rounds. I wonder if that will carry on if the weather, say, improves. Now, an interesting note here that Tom Willis is playing at 8 for Saracens, Ben Earl at 7, but sometimes they have Earl bursting off the base of a scrum for extra pace. It is something that Steve Borthwick could do for England, and Willis was absolutely on fire in this match. Surely he has to be in the Six Nations squad. I think I might cry if he's not, but I think those tears might be coming. We will see. But it's literally Tom Willis who powers through 4 Bristol tacklers for the first try with little momentum. Just unbelievable stuff. 7-0. Now, of course, Bristol are trying to attack from deep and their hands are pretty good. They work the winger free, which is normally Gabriel Ibitoye, but he's injured. It's Hewitt instead, who's decent, but he's no Ibitoye, and Dale can make the tackle. So he is definitely a big missed Ibitoye, and if he had any chance of the Six Nations, it's definitely over now because he's injured. We'll never know if he got in or not. Likewise for Saracens though, Sinti's more of a centre than a winger, and he looks a little bit slow at times as well, so just a little bit down on players both sides, and those kind of are some of the reasons why they're not the best sides in the Champions Cup, that depth in their squad. Now, Bristol's defence is really quick. It rushes up, filling those outside passing lanes quickly. O'Grey particularly sharp off the mark, but kind of too sharp as half their team isn't quick enough to catch up with them. Some of the forwards are actually a bit slower. I said that in the last match report as well for Bristol. So Van Zyl, he just holds on as they rush past him. Then he bursts through. Same for Fergus Burke as he makes a good break. So good stuff from the half-backs for it to be 14-0. Now, I got a bit of heat in the previous video saying Fergus Burke was maybe one of the form 10s, or if not the form English 10 in the Premiership, but I stick by it. Another really good game for him. I'm not saying he should start for England, but they should definitely think about capping him because he's full of confidence and you need 10s. And also he's got an all-round game. He shows this in defence by scything down Big Matter to stop a probable try. But despite this, Bristol camp in the Saracens 22. They seem to repel the big boys, but not the little boy Harry Randall, who fools Maro Itoje a little too easily to dummy and score just around the ruck from close range. That's what he does. I think they should watch him a bit more closely. But anyway, 14-7. Interesting that Saracens are definitely struggling with Bristol's kicking game a bit more than their running game, which is unusual. A really clever one from Van Rensburg, the centre, and he's not just a power centre, he's got a good passing game and kicking here, and he will be eligible for England at some point, and they've got to snap him up. I think it's 2026 actually. Anyway, that leads to a good maul and a yellow card for Itoje. Big chance for Bristol to press the advantage, but some big tackles from Earl and other Saracens players dislodge the ball, and Bristol then muck up a dangerous maul, so they could have scored there against 40-man Saracens, and they don't. Just before half-time, Bristol have had loads of scoring positions, but that Saracens defence is too good. They hold out a minute to go before half-time for 12 phases, defending their 22, and then Maro Itoje, of all people, he intercepts and he makes the slowest break you've seen, and then the slowest dummy you've seen. It's quite entertaining, actually. He has lost a fair bit of pace, but good interception and a good dummy, although it did look like it was on slow-mo. Anyway, Saracens work the ball wide off that break, but there's no winger there. It's Tom Willis. But no problem. He does a bit of a sidestep. He shrugs off the cover tackle from Hewitt, and then Matter, and then Lane to finish an absolutely end-to-end worldie. Brilliant try, amazing finish from Tom Willis. I mean, he's massive, but he's also got some speed in the sidestep. Like I said, has to play for England. Simply has to. 22-7. There we go. Half-time. Good lead for Saracens. Interesting to see for Bristol, they've brought Harry Byrne into the squad to cover for injuries, and he's on and he zips and passes around very nicely. But it's Saracens who start faster with a lovely back ball to the line out, a peel and a tip-on passes, and the Saracens forwards are really starting to pop this ball around, and it's a good offload from that man Tom Willis, and Sinti gets the finish, so it is 27-7. It looks like the game is there. Alex Lazowski's kicking at goal, but he's got a funny curling technique. Don't really like it too much. I mean, Fergus Burke, they don't trust kicking at goal, which is one reason why he said he shouldn't play for England, people in the comments. And they have Lazowski kicking, so it's a bit of a funny one there. They probably need to work out a slightly better goal-kicking strategy. Anyway, the defence, though, for Saracens is good, pretty clever. They know Bristol will force the pass wide, so they're just standing into those passing lanes and they're being given the ball, to be honest. And the Saracens' attack is starting to look a bit better. Tom Willis, of course, rips the ball and launches a high-paced attack. Lazowski looking very creative. Eventually, Saracens are held up over the line, so could have got another one. Bristol, they're playing much better than their humiliating game against Sale, that's for sure, but they're up against Saracens, so there's the difference. It's hard to break down, a real slog to try and break down that Saracens defence. Harry Randall knows something special is needed, so off a penalty he taps it like lightning, sucks in a load of players and gives Ravovo a chance to finish, which he does well. He is one of the best finishers in the Premiership, so good try there, 27-14, and all of a sudden Bristol have a bit of momentum. They make their first break out of their 22. Razor-sharp reverse of play from Randall. Van Rensburg could be over, but they muck up a 5-metre line out, which is really painful. And then Tom Willis comes back to the party. He's an absolute beast, single-handedly giving Saracens a turnover attack as he chases, catches Rich Lane, picks him up and just carries him back 10 metres, 15, who knows, back into his 22. Blockbuster stuff, wins the penalty, so that's 30-14. But Bristol aren't a team to lie down, and Ravovo again causing havoc, stopping and going to beat his opposite man Shagan. That was impressive. Leads to a 5-metre line out, which is driven over really nicely for a replacement hooker Thacker to score. So 30-21, even though Saracens are on top, Bristol are just hanging in there. And Harry Byrne, like I said, fizzing some really good flat passes around, trying to get a bit of a miracle comeback. They have to run out of their 22 against the hungry Saracens defence, so it's really tough. And Saracens get the turnover, and from the scrum, Shagan goes close, and then Burke, a quick pick and go to dive round the corner of the ruck. Really nicely done from Burke to round out a good game, and it is 35-21. There's still time for another Bears try, though, in this high-quality game. But anyway, the Bears hang on to second place in the league, but get beaten by a good Saracens team. Entertaining stuff, 35-26. And then finally, the blockbuster that is Northampton 35, Bath 34. 2 bonus points for Bath, of course. Northampton, bonus point win. Just a brilliant, brilliant match. Like I said, it felt like an international or a Premiership final. Fantastic game to go. Shows that the 7th place team in the league is a match for the first, but Bath also showing they've got some strong players. They've got a really strong squad, even though they don't play their best at times, which I've said before. They were rotating a few. Maloney had a start, I think. They had a 7-1 split, which was a bit mental. They wanted to use Bayliss on the wing. It went a little bit wrong as Muir had to go off. But anyway, interesting stuff. But it's Northampton who start like an absolute train. The home team just are brilliant, and the away team are a little slow. That classic format there. On 2 minutes in, it's George Hendy who makes things happen. He's got to be in the frame for an England shout, especially with Furbank injured. He wins the restart, and then he makes the break later in the play, offloading to Kemney for a blistering try there. Under 2 minutes, 7-0. Now, as away sides do, they try and feel themselves into the game, do Bath. They kick long, but Hendy just counter-attacks and makes 60 metres. And Ram is nearly in, but he chips a bit too long, so that could have been another one. But 1 minute later, there is another try, a chip and regather against 3 converging Bath defenders. I think that was Finn Smith, showed some good pace actually, and Mitchell spreads the ball wide to Dingwall. Brilliant stuff there. Definitely saw some really good play from young Finn Smith. So that's 12-0. Now, like I said, Bath are kind of still on the bus. They're trying to wake themselves up, but they're fluffing their lines, and Saints are just on fire. A perfect launch play on 30 minutes. Finn Smith misses Dingwall, who pulls behind to a loop, and it's James Rum who just swerves around the defence and then back in field. The Bath defence looking very slow at this point. Yeah, like I said, talk about still being asleep. There's another try there. But that does wake up Bath, who on their next scrum produce a fantastic set-piece attack. It's another loop play, but maybe even better as Max Ajomo is going at serious pace, so has to pull the ball back a long way. And Ajomo was very, very impressive. He looked so in tandem with Ollie Lawrence. It's a shame he's got Cam Redpath as competition, but Ajomo really looks the real deal. Power and handling, very impressive. There's some good decoy lines there as well. And Thorkenasiga dives in the corner. 2 perfectly constructed first phase tries. Some huge nudges from Ben Spencer puts him in good position. Boy, can he boom a box kick. They get into a huge spell of possession. The Saints seem to be equal to it, stopping the likes of Barbary on the gain line. But a few penalties are creeping in from those weight of possession. And they simply have to score points from this sort of pressure, and they do. It's a lovely long pass from Finn Smith. which Saints actually drift on fairly well, but the pass is just too good, too accurate, and Orlando Bailey makes a break and then steps really well back inside to wriggle over. So it is 19-12. Game on, such exciting stuff. But there's no time to catch your breath as Saints seem to be numbered up, but Finn Smith literally produces a perfect soft dab kick through for a try for Hendy. He is probably the best in the Premiership at those soft kicks. He just knows how much weight to put on the ball. And then an interesting one, that 7-1 split kind of bites them a little bit as Will Muir has to go off, so they put Bayliss out to one wing, and he's not quite as good as a winger, so it's a bit of a risk. They were trying to rotate their squad, I think, more than trying to play a team for this game, but let me know what you think. On 32 minutes, it looks like Bath must score as those forwards offload nicely, but Finn Smith, goodness me, he showed up in defence as well, piles Miles Reid, the open side flanker, backwards, and wins a penalty. What a big play. But Bath are pouring on the pressure, even though it's not that great. Barbary makes a break. Josh Bayliss is piled into touch, though, by Mitchell and Kemeny. Massive double defensive play. They're just desperate for that winner, Saints. They would be gutted if they'd lost this game. I know they hang on at the end. The last 10 minutes, it's Bath pushing for the try. And they probably should score, but Finn Smith piles Miles Reid backwards and wins the penalty, and then they pile Bayliss into touch. Some massive plays there, so it finishes 26-12 at half time. Just after half time, Fraser Dingwall tries to go direct and runs straight into Tom Dunn, regrets it as he gets destroyed and concedes the penalty. And it's one of the reasons why I probably won't pick Dingwall in my Six Nations squad. I just don't think he has the physicalness, if that's a word, to play in the centres internationally. Anyway, Bath go on the attack, not too inventive, but strong carries, direct stuff as they normally do, and it saps that energy out of the Saints, and eventually the pick and go goes over. Will Stewart with that try, so they're grinding back into it, 26-19. Saints conversely are trying to be more inventive, but they're struggling to make the gain line, getting counter-rucked a bit. They have to settle for penalties, so it's 29-19. Curtis Langdon is trying to do his best to make the breaks with his dummies, his breaks, his quick footwork, and he's that sort of hooker. If you want a quick breaking hooker with the best speed in the Premiership, it's Curtis Langdon. If you want sheer size and power, it's probably not him. Let me know if you'd pick him for England. But then a couple of good tackles from the number 10 for Bath, Finn Russell, and super sub prop Thomas Dutoy with the jackal, almost like a flanker gets loads of jackals. Great combination to come off the bench for Bath. Van Wyk and Dutoy, they've just got such strength and depth. I keep saying it, but it's something that I think will definitely get them into those playoffs. And Bath are finishing fairly strong. Freeman makes a poor clearance, then the power of Thokanasiga breaks back. Underhill offloads really nicely for a Jomo to score. Like I said, great game for a Jomo. I think he's right back into England contention because those cupboards are a bit bare at inside centre. 29-26, 3-point lead for the home team. Then we see quite an interesting incident as the TMO seems desperate to penalise Kutsia, who just runs a support line and happens to run into one of the players. It's not a tackle, it's nothing really. Luckily the ref looks at it and goes, what are you talking about? Luckily the madness is conceded, but a bit worrying that TMO wants to make that foul play. Sam Underhill's on, cutting people in half, but Langdon again, brilliant footwork to break free. Mitchell some nice play as well. Saints are getting pushed backwards occasionally, but they keep on going. Now, one thing Saints were guilty of was just being a bit too desperate to go from everywhere. Rory Hutchinson is being closed down, the crossfield kick isn't on, but he goes for it anyway, and Miles Reid gets a charge down, and Thokanasiga shows really good pace to outstrip Hutchinson for that try and that hammer blow. It seems as Bath now lead 29-31 into the last 10 minutes, and both sides are blowing. No surprise from this crazy game. No side wants to give it away, so we get into a bit of a kicking battle, and it's Finn Russell who blinks first with a skewed clearance, and then Underhill gets pinged, maybe a bit unlucky, as he slides up on a tackle. It looks like a perfect tackle to me, but slides up and makes contact with the head, so I'm not sure about that one. Penalty chance for Finn Smith. He's missed a previous one. He gets this one just about off the post, so it's 32-31. 1 point lead, but there's still time for it to swing back twice more. Barbary drops the ball as Bath get into a good position. In a flash, Saints counter-attack. Pollock, good footwork, wins the penalty. Long range shot for Finn Smith, but he pulls it wide again. So it looks like maybe Finn Smith is kind of going to be a bit of a villain at the end here. as Bath get a good launch play, a Jomo onto the ball at pace, lovely pass to Lawrence, and just clumsy for Mitchell as he collides with Lawrence. Not really a tackle, but he is upright. Yellow card there, and a penalty shot, and Finn Russell nails it nicely from 38 metres on an angle. It looks like his big game experience might have won it, 32-34, but then Bath can't get the restart. Northampton get it back. They fling the ball around. It looks like they're playing for the penalties. They kind of run out of width and puff, but they get it. Underhill, second man into the ruck, handles the ball, and there's the penalty, and Finn Smith is the hero. 35-34, epic stuff. Just felt like a final. Both sides, really good sides. Bath, the better strength and depth, definitely. Northampton, the more ambition, definitely. They don't look sides 7 points, apart in the table, but that's how it is. So with 10 rounds gone, this is how it looks. Bath sitting pretty there, but it's really just a bun fight below them. It doesn't look like Exeter or Newcastle will get into that playoff fight. In fact, I'm pretty sure they won't, but everyone else absolutely could. Let me know what you thought of that round down below. Love to know what you think as always, and I'll catch you next time.